Hi and welcome to our latest video covering our sailing trip along the south coast and across to France. We met up with Jandina in Dover as before, but this time she was in a new berth at the new marina at Dover which had just opened, though it wasn't fully open. The new marina is a multi-million-pound development and will be a fantastic asset for local boat owners and for visitors when it's fully open. When we set off the next morning, the weather had worsened, but the forecast said it would improve. As we approached the outer harbour west entrance, the sea outside looked a little bubbly. And so it was, giving us a bit of a battering. It wasn't the summer sailing you'd expect in August. Wind soon dropped and the sun even made an appearance. The window meant we had to motor sail west towards Eastbourne, and in the afternoon we entered the lock to the Sovereign Harbour Marina. Near the lock, Sovereign Harbour is open at all tides, so it's a good stopover on the south coast. We had a berth on the visitors' pontoon, where we stayed the night. Sovereign Harbour is a well-equipped marina and well worth visiting. The next morning we left at low water and continued our way west towards Brighton, where we spent the night and had a pleasant walk into town. We're then on our way to Chichester, and we were able to sail at last and headed for the visitors' pontoon at Chichester. Chichester Harbour is a sailor's paradise for dinghies and yachts alike, and despite the number of boats it can be a really peaceful location. The next afternoon we left Chichester and made our way out over the Chichester Bar and went east of the Isle of Wight, heading to France on the port of Cherbourg. Weather and the forecast were good as we set out for our night crossing, but forecasts aren't always correct. An early evening meal of chicken curry before getting ready for the 4-hour watches that we had planned for the journey. At the Isle of Wight we had a lovely sunset and we were looking forward to a lovely nighttime sail. Fortunately, during the night the wind got up. It changed direction so it was on our rear and brought with it an uncomfortable swell. Glad to see the sunrise the next morning. The wind dropped and eventually the swell eased after an uncomfortable few hours. By the time we were approaching Sherburg, it was a pleasant morning and the wind and the sea had calmed. Cherbourg was a lovely town. We stayed at the excellent Port Chantereine Marina for 2 nights and enjoyed our stay. It's a large marina with great facilities and close to the town. We were on one of the dedicated visitor pontoons. Here we are right next to Isla. If you're on the Normandy coast, you have to have mules. Cheers! We then set off east heading for Sanvast and had great winds with a strong tide. This meant we got there early and had to wait for the Sanvast lock to open 3 hours before high tide so that we could enter the harbour. Sanvast was another lovely harbour set right in the town with excellent visitor facilities. Looking out over the calm water in the bay, there was no hint to what was hiding there. Maison Gozlan, a food and gift emporium, is one of Sanvast's claim to fame, and well deserved. But more than anything, Sanvast is famous for its oyster beds, acres and acres of them that become visible at low tide. Left with the tide the next morning and had an excellent sail towards Le Havre at the mouth of the River Seine and then down the river to Honfleur. It was early evening as we turned off the river and through the lock gates, which were then on free flow, into Honfleur. We stayed at the visitors' pontoon just after the lock, choosing not to go into the old harbour, having been told it was a bit noisy and uncomfortable in the 30-degree plus temperatures we were experiencing. The harbour though was delightful, setting wonderful examples of Norman architecture. And we really loved Honfleur. It was our favourite stop on the journey. We spent 2 lovely nights in Honfleur and set off early, this time through the loch as it was low water in the river. We found ourselves touching the mud as we eased ourselves into the river, passing returning fishing boats and cargo ships going downriver on the flooding tide. We once again found ourselves sailing into a very unseasonal northeast wind, so had to do some motor sailing as we headed to Fecamp. Fecamp was another lovely seaside town, excellent harbour and its very own white cliffs. We left the next morning, heading east, and had a great sail heading for Dieppe. We were moored on the visitors' pontoon, which soon became full. The remains of a new motor yacht that had caught fire there a few days earlier could be seen at low water. Luckily, there were no casualties. Dieppe was a great place to visit, an expansive harbour with hundreds of bars and restaurants to help pass the time.
When it's hot, drink less.
Just above our berth, we got first-hand experience of Ibiza night. After all, it was Saturday. After a frustrating immigration clearing process, we headed out across the channel, back to Eastbourne. Travelling back across the channel was a more pleasant experience. We even got the shootout. After a night through the loch at Sovereign Marina, we set out on a calm, windless day back towards Journey's End at Dover.